Hey everybody, and welcome to Volume 12 of the One Piece Virgin Egghead Book Club podcast. I am the captain of the measly crew, Mumkey D. Jones, joined as always by the Zoro to my Luffy, Eggy Eggman Rodriguez.
Matter of fact, let me give you a visual for that.
That's right. He's got a magic wand in his mouth for those listening at home. Real Zoro mode. Eggy, we have a lot to cover this episode. I mean, people at home already know, last two episodes were 100 minutes each. Will this one be 2 hours? Will we finally break that threshold? Because we've got 3 different arcs to talk about, Eggy. It's been 4 episodes, so we have new comments to read. We've got new members of the measly crew for you to give their role on the crew. Just so much to cover, Eggy. Should we start with the new members or with the new comments?
Let's go ahead and do these new members, I think, first.
Okay. Episode 10 just came out this morning, so we got 3 new members as of that episode's release. Keyboard Cat, welcome to the measly crew. What should they be doing on here, on our boat here, Eggy? Do we have a name for our ship? I know a lot of people ship us, but I mean the ship that we ride on. The going sad, like what's like
going misery?
Yeah, going misery. That's pretty good.
How about
miserable go?
I gotta tell you, I'm not the most educated when it comes to ships. Like, I'm sure there's people out there that know ships, and they could probably like put something together so fast. And
what about the Saber of Zebek? No, that doesn't make any sense. That's stupid.
Let's call it. What do they call? We got whitewater rafting, and they don't really have whitewaters in the oceans, but maybe the motion in the ocean, because we're getting that motion. That's street talk.
No, vetoed immediately. Stupid. Well, we got so much to cover. Maybe we'll get inspired throughout this podcast and come up with a name. So what will Keyboard Cat be doing on our crew?
Listen, in this volume that we've just read here, they got these things called Neptunians. They look like giant beasts. I think if somebody is a Keyboard Cat, they might have an affinity for beasts, and so I think that they might be our residential beast tamer or beast person.
The Moji of the crew. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, we got the Poopy Doopy. Could this be the guy who squabs the poop deck?
The poop deck.
Is that the word squab, the poop deck?
I think it's swab.
Swab, okay, yeah.
Swab your ear.
I'm very stupid. I guess squab is not a word. I was very confused for a moment there. What do you say? Swab? Swab the poop deck?
Yeah.
Okay. What's swab mean? I'm not a woman. I don't clean things, Eggy.
Well, you use a cotton swab on your ear to clean your ear. It'd basically be like mopping the barnacles and sea filth off and dirt, whatever, so it's not corroding the integrity of your ship.
So this guy paid to join the crew, and we're making him the janitor.
You know what? Get in where you fit in, brother. You do what I'm saying? Yeah.
Usopp's basically doing that. And finally, Nick Challenge Man has joined.
All right, he's gonna be our inspirational person because he's gonna challenge us to be our best every single day.
Okay.
So he's our pep talk guy, hype man, which I think I already said somebody was that last time, but I forgot.
Yeah, that was Guns Beer Freedom is our hype man, but we can have 2.
That guy's our inspiration because he's so inspirational in and of his own greatness, and this guy is gonna challenge us to be even greater.
Okay, everybody, welcome to the crew. We've got 7 paid members currently. It's $3 to join. If you want to join, get those episodes early, you get a designation on the crew, and so much more. Anyway, let's read some comments, Eggy. It's been 4 episodes. Valentinus Aurelius wants to say, I'm not reading along. I barely have any idea what you're talking about, but I just love hearing people talk about things they love.
Well, you know what? That is so good to hear. We're bringing good positivity and love into the world, even more than Homeboy Guns Beer Freedom, or maybe just the same amount. So
do you think we are recapping the story enough that nobody needs to read One Piece or even watch the anime? They can just listen to our podcast and get the full scoop. Maybe even a deeper understanding than somebody who just watches the anime.
I would like to think so. I don't feel like we leave any stone unturned in our analysis. I think we go over everything very finely. So I think you could definitely get all of the information you're looking for from listening to this podcast.
We talk about Richie as much as the live action features Kobe for no reason. So, there's better characters to focus on. Josh says, imagine if Iggy watched the cucked anime and thought Chef Zeph's leg was cut off by a chain while he was swimming to save Sanji. Did you know about this, Iggy?
I did not. I will tell you. I still have, I believe, 9 days on my Hulu free trial, so I'll definitely have another One Piece binge here one of these days on the anime, but I still have not watched any further episodes beyond Captain Kuro as far as the anime is concerned.
That's the Syrup Village hump. People get bored watching that. It's a sticky little spot in the story. That's why it's called that, and it's hard to get past. You might as well just skip to Baratie right now.
It was only because of because I've had other things going on. It's a perfectly fine anime. I didn't feel like it was. I mean, maybe there was a little bit of a lull there. I'm not gonna lie, but yeah, if it hadn't been like 2:00 in the morning when I had watched that episode and then gone to bed, I definitely would have watched some more that day.
Okay. But yeah, in the anime, I don't know why. For some reason, they thought maybe kids don't want to hear about self-cannibalism, but it's just when Sanji gets knocked out of by the wave into the water and Zeph jumps in to save him, like the chain of the anchor or something like snags his leg and it gets chopped off. So then the whole flashback, like the majesty of the storytelling and characters of this man chopped off his sacred leg to feed himself so that the child who he should hate and blame for this situation can have all of the food. Mm-hmm. You kind of don't have that. Like, the impact is missing in the anime. It's like, oh yeah, it's just a bag full of treasure and I gave you all the food. He ate his leg in the manga and you anime tards have no clue. Disgusting. And I think in the live action, they did fix it. I think he does eat his leg in live action. So shout out to Netflix and Matt Owens, even though I gotta say, we watched episode 3 of the live action. I would say very poorly written on every level, and it did say written by Matt Owens at the end. So, I'll give him credit, but he's also kind of horrible. Like, maybe stick to being the showrunner, not the scriptwriter, because it was bad. Episode 3 is bad.
So, did he write episode 2?
I don't know. I just saw that he wrote episode 3.
I felt that episodes 1 and 2 were reasonably true to the source material. Then episode 3 comes in and it's like, yeah, never mind. we're gonna cook up like some whole different shit. It's gonna kind of get conclude where it needs to be, but it's gonna be way fucked up. And
we're going to completely massacre Nami's character, like the character who her whole motivation is pirates are stealing from the normal citizens who I love, so I'm going to steal from pirates to save them. But now she's like openly walking around stealing shit from an orphan girl's home, like a civilian's home. She's like, I don't like to make friends. I just love to steal. This is the dumbest shit I've ever seen. Everybody involved should consider something I'm not allowed to say on YouTube anymore, but it's not pleasant for your neck. Do better for season 2 is all I'm trying to say, because that was pretty bad. Like, as much as I want to praise the live action for all it did good, like, can anybody adapt Syrup Village correctly? Like, Oda barely got it to be good himself. Okay.
That's a fair point.
This is a long one. I was trying to be funny, but I was very sleepy coming up with food fighting names for Sanji's attacks in, I think, episode 10 or something. This guy says, Sanji's food-related kicks aren't actually that random. They are mostly simply different cuts of meat that somewhat refer to where he's kicking the enemy rather than the kick itself being different. Flanchette is part of the stomach, Paul is the shoulder piece, etc. So, yeah.
Well, I'll say when I was doing the initial reading, that didn't immediately set for me mentally, so it is what it is.
It's like his fighting is like he's preparing a recipe, So, it's fun. Okay. Nick Challenge Man, new member. Do you remember what his designation was, Iggy? What was Challenge Man?
He's going to challenge us to be better every day.
Okay, Ultimate Hype Man. He says, we were talking about how much does a sword weigh in real life, because Hachi had like 650-pound swords. He says most swords weigh as much as like 2 to 4 pounds. They are about speed mostly. Okay, so this sword that has Monkey Jones engraved up on my wall, I guess that's the normal weight for a sword. Oh, that's probably only like 1 pound.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess that probably, I don't know my metallurgy dates. I know we got like the Bronze Age, Iron Age, and all that. I think that people slowed down a little bit on weight for swords when chainmail became a bit more, and the armor kind of started stepping up a little bit because you're coming in with this heavy blunt object, and you have this sort of armor that is very good for reducing the impact or reducing the damage that a heavy impact would be doing to you. So then they started changing it up a little bit, but I'm sure that a heavy sword was preferable at some points, and then until it wasn't.
You know what I think is underrated? Gun with, what is it, a bayonet with like just a long pokey knife at the end of it. So you could go up and stab him and shoot him at the same time. Like, that's ultimate. Like, that against the sword fighter, I'm betting on the bayonet guy every time. I mean, come on.
That's when you had to, set it down on the ground and like re-pump it with a fucking cannonball in there with some gunpowder. That made sense. It's like, hey, if you don't have time to reload, just go up and start thrusting. It is what it is.
Just one stab to the throat and you're good. And finally, we've had a lot of discussion about women on this show, Aggie. I can't imagine us talk, no, not a clap situation that they couldn't hear. But, we said, you'll never have to hear a woman's opinion on this show, and our audience is 100% men. Well, we got a comment, and I don't even think it's a trans person, Aggie. I think this might be a genuine, foid? Is that what we call them now? Roasty? Is that a word?
I heard somebody use the word, not even in my chat, but fee-fail. I guess that's like another derogatory term. Obviously, we call them
female,
queens.
It's fee-fail.
Queens that we exalt, goddesses. Thank you. And
fee-fail is something I would have said in 3rd grade, and it would have been like funny in 2003 when I was in 3rd grade.
It's cutting edge MGTOW terminology, and that's not a derogatory thing for me to say. I'm just telling you how it is.
Well, this female named Kurwi says, so first of all, careful in bringing up my comment because in one of the last videos you promised to know women and their opinions on this channel. So by quoting me, you are potentially breaking your promises there. Now, I don't remember exactly what the rest of this says, but I think it's not opinionated. I think it's just stating some facts, so no worries. There's no female opinion here, I don't believe. But with that, I can indeed confirm the YouTube algorithm to be faulty because at least I have already watched some of your previous videos. How else would I know about the above comment? And seemingly went incognito as a woman for YouTube and am part of the 0%. I guess as someone that regularly watches stuff about One Piece, gaming, and other nerd stuff that would probably be associated with men primarily, YouTube simply assumes I have to be one of the guys. Okay. So
well, I'll also say this.
There.
Unless you're one of these people that gives your driver's license to YouTube like they seem to want you to do. I don't recall ever setting male or female on any of my YouTube accounts. I don't there's a lot of sites that, they will ask you, male, female, or other, but I don't remember Google ever doing that, but maybe that's just me. Maybe it's because I've been buying YouTube accounts off destitute third
Russian websites.
Impoverished nations for like 60 cents for the last 5 years.
So if you live in Belarus and you have a Google account from 2005 that you want to sell for 60 cents, hit up Aggie. He will pay for your next loaf of bread, I guess.
That's right.
I think that's all of what we need to cover. And, Aggie, last episode we did our East Blue 100 chapters character tier list. And I'm hoping you're still in the mood for tier listing, Aggie, because we've got 2 more arcs to put on the tier list today. But before we go through this, Volume 12, chronologically, Aggie, as the Virgin, I'm dying to know, what is top of mind?
Well, I guess for Volume 12, I did not know that when I was thinking of the Grand Line, I was not thinking of it as some sort of tower defense indie game or something. You're like, all right, you get welcome to the 12 islands of the Grand Line. Here we go. It's time to chart your course. I'm thinking it's the ocean, all right, we're here. We're maybe in a belt of I don't know my science. Sorry, my fellow Redditors, but either way, there's like currents that pull this way, currents that pull that way. They have the magnetism of the poles. I'm thinking like the Grand Line is somewhere down here. You got like poles here, whatever. This is like the meat and potatoes, central, uncharted waters. And then it's like, it's not exactly what it is. Also, you have to throw yourself through like some kind of current that goes up a mountain and through, like, it looked like there was some kind of gate that was created for this. Like, who built that? Where did it come from?
Do you think we have an answer to that 1,000 chapters later?
Yeah, maybe.
But keep going. I'm enjoying this so far.
Well,
there's a lot of confusing elements kind of chucked in here about how the Grand Line operates, but let's talk about when they accidentally drift into the Calm Belt, and we get an understanding of why do we have to go over a mountain to get into this strip of ocean. It's because the Grand Line is sandwiched between stretches of ocean that there's no wind, no waves, just mountain-sized sea monsters, like the stuff that, that Luffy punched in the face. That's like a baby compared to these things. And now we have to go back in time a little bit, Iggy, because homeboy Don Krieg, he was on the Grand Line for about a week. I don't think that mountain goes in reverse, despite its name, Reverse Mountain. Are we to believe that Don Krieg and his crew just sailed north through the Calm Belt to get to the Baratier? Because how else would they have gotten there? And this is not like a trick question. Like, I think that is what happened. Like, we just have to assume they somehow made it through. Because what else is there? Like, Mihawk, I can understand. He could probably go through that on his little raft. Like, those fish are no match for him, probably, with his big sword. But, like, Don Krieg's fucked up crew that got killed by Mihawk, that they then had to sail through the Calm Belt through all those monsters? That's what Oda wants us to believe?
Maybe he might have used his giant pole arm to maybe row really fast. I know he's the captain that's beneath him, but
yeah, they would have to row to get through it is the thing. So I guess with a big crew of all those men who were starving to death, maybe that's why they were so hungry when they were done rowing. Like, they exerted all their energy.
That's a sensible explanation, about as sensible as I could think of.
Maybe he's like shooting poison gas bombs at the fish to keep them away. Who knows? Well, maybe that could be like a good filler arc, is how did Krieg get through the Calm Belt?
Yeah, if there was like some type of way he could have used his net to like maybe like latch on to a fin of something, and maybe a creature was like swimming through and gave him some propulsion.
Seems like something Buggy would do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that probably had the starvation as a result of a lot of physical expenditure to get out of there safely-ish enough. That's probably the best explanation I could think of.
Your discussion of the Grand Line, let's talk about that. You said, so it's not an ocean, it's like how did you describe it? Because I would say it is an ocean. It's just the way it's written, you really feel like it's going to be the pirate graveyard and this ultimate test, but then as we come to see, it's just like it's full of islands where people live, kind of.
Yeah, I guess maybe it's just the way that it was shown with the log post and everything there. It just was like,
I think that was to show you that there are like multiple routes you could take. It's not just the same islands that everybody's going to take. There are, at any time, you can go to one of 7 different islands when you're moving along, I think was the idea. Was that what you had a problem with?
Yeah, I think I might have maybe misunderstood it, because it just, I'm thinking, like, I think I mentioned this before, I'm thinking, like, when I think about the ocean, I guess I'm thinking like this vast thing, and maybe the way that it was presented, it just seemed more linear, maybe a little more narrow. Which is good. It makes sense for a story. It just, I guess,
it is drawn to be that way, but we have to imagine that the world itself is just so ginormous that like the strip of the Grand Line is fucking wide as fuck anyway.
Right, like this is going to be the most, through trial and error, most traveled and therefore the best documented. We have a lot of expanse that maybe hasn't been bothered to have been documented as well, because this is just what people have found to be the most optimal traversing to and fro. What was the final island that I forget off the top of my head, but there was that final island, Raftel, yeah, that only one crew might have even touched down on that ever. So I guess whatever is at that second to final island to have gotten traveled to enough for the second to last series of islands must be pretty interesting to see who's got that far and then just stop there.
And in terms of all of these places being explored and documented, the Great Pirate Era didn't start until like 20 years ago when Roger died and inspired so many people to take to the seas. So I think mostly people were not just freely traveling the world, adventuring and pirating and all that. So a lot of this might be slightly undiscovered or less seen places in the world.
Right. And that's not even to say of just this bit that we did reach so far upon entering the Grand Line, how the weather is like it just goes like completely insane, like total the seasons like don't seem to exist at all. It's just like they come in and the weather is all, it's almost like some kind of parallel universe or something for a second there. It's like just totally unpredictable realm. I guess so that was probably what was top of mind for me, but probably the second top of mind for me was just how absolutely 100% wrong my predictions were.
Which ones?
The previous volume. I'm thinking that there's going to be like what did I say? Like definitely a volume and a half of
Loguetown.
Smoker doing his thing. Smoker links up with Buggy and Hot Alvida, and it's about to go down for sure. We got Moji and Kabaji there. Everybody's about to go, and that was what I was banking on. A volume and a half, and we get a chapter. Maybe not even a chapter.
It's literally chapter 100 was the final one. 5 chapter arc total, I think. And so yeah, I was kind of memeing a little bit when I'm like, yeah, how much longer do you think Loguetown's gonna be, when I know it's literally one more chapter and it's just the start of the next volume. But were you surprised not only by the short length of Loguetown, but we go to the Grand Line the very next chapter? Did you think we'd be hitting the Grand Line in chapter 101?
I did not. I felt like there was definitely, especially being in Loguetown, we're getting a lot of juxtaposition, I think, with, meeting Smoker and meeting Tashigi and Buggy and these guys coming back. I felt like, it's a cornucopia of possibility that just is immediately extinguished, and then, yeah, here we go. I thought that was interesting. Definitely not what I expected. But you know what? I do welcome it, because just as much as I said last episode that I felt that Loguetown was really a new beginning of sorts, well, this is really the truer new beginning, really leaving the starting zone behind and heading to the real meat and potatoes of the Grand Line, and it is quite a banger to start off with.
We'll get to that. We got to cover chapter 100. We'll see if Laboon is a true banger of an arc when we get to that. But let's resume chapter 100, which starts off with, we got some Dark Oda narration boxes giving us a quote from Gold Roger himself. He says, "These things cannot be stopped. The ebb and flow of the ages." So, time, like the forward momentum of time. One's dreams, the man of dreams, Eggy, cannot be stopped. And the inherited strength of will, which, that's just a bunch of words. How do we interpret that? We'll have to figure that one out. As long as people hunger for freedom, these things will exist. Eggy, what do you think of an inherited strength of will?
Well, I think I think the way that humanity is I think it makes sense. I don't know if it makes logical sense, but I think that if we can look on those who came before us and see the sorts of tests that they were put under, the kind of pressures they were put under to be able to succeed in those conditions, for whatever reason, I think it does have a great impact on us as well. It can really drive us in those moments of need when we are uncertain of our own selves. We have enough of a line that we can look back towards of what our ancestors and our betters, maybe you might even say, because, you know, after all this poison in the food and water, we might not be measuring up. It is what it is. But I think that it absolutely is real, and it's something that is good to draw upon, especially out here as a pirate. I think adds even another level to it, because these are real groundbreakers that are seeing things that no other man has ever seen, experiencing things no man has ever experienced. And I think their will that we can inherit from them in these waters is even more than just our biological will that we can inherit.
Here's a completely pointless metaphor that popped into my mind. Let's see what you think of this, Eggy. Is it like when, you know how mountain climbers, they will install little things in the rock to help the future mountain climbers? But the guys who were there originally, they didn't have the assistance of those. They had to climb the fucking shit with their own tools, with their own hands, and made it easier for the people in the future. So maybe it's something, you know, kind of like that, like going off of what you were saying, like the people of the past had these struggles, and then we can, you know, like a stepping stone, continue to climb off of what they did and set things up for the future. So maybe that's what Gold Roger's talking about here. My next note says there's a chop buggy car to chase down Luffy.
Yeah, that was interesting. I think it's just made of his body parts entirely.
Well, they had to give him some sort of motor. I don't know what's going on there. You can also do that in the video game, so we'll use that move on each other if we do like a buggy mirror match and only use chop buggy.
Maybe like he's got his hands are like inside. They're doing the Fred Flintstone. They're doing some
something like that. He might just be holding a wheel. I think he's holding a wheel in front of him.
An interesting power. I wonder how I figured that one out. He must have been kind of bored one day.
Yeah.
Goes car mode. But
the best devil fruit users are the most creative people. Like, you know, if you're made of rubber, are you going to come up with half the shit Luffy does? I don't know.
Then Alvida does like slip, and she's doing some kind of like Silver Surfer move where she's like sliding along the ground, like on her feet. I guess the ground's like being pushed away from her. I think that sounds even more cooler than a chop car. I mean,
oh my god!
Respect.
Welcome back to One Piece Anime Fights, the movie fights parody, where we have an epic debate. I'm here to say chop buggy 10 times cooler than Alvida's slip feet.
More creative for the buggy cart, but if I had to choose, you know, rearrange my body and hold a wheel, like, you know, go in front of me versus like like surfing on the ground and like my feet have like a natural propulsion built into them, I feel like it's going to be a little more my style. Alvida's going to have that optimized, sleek design that I'm looking for in my crazy devil fruit movement.
Now, I was going to argue that the chop fruit is more powerful, but if the slip fruit turns you into a Chad and like all your body fat slips off, like Eggy, 6 foot tall Chad Eggy with that power, that's more powerful than anybody with the chop fruit. I might have to give that one to you, Eggy, in terms of power. That's pretty good. But Smoker, he finally shows off his power in chapter 100, and one fell swoop captures the entirety of Buggy's crew, including him and Alvida. Just like, I guess he condenses his, clouds? Are these clouds that he's using, Eggy? What is this? What is Smoker using?
Well, it's my estimation now, after having seen him use his powers, this is more of a... There's probably a word for it, but he basically can like lose his form and then reform. So like he's able to disperse his matter, like he's able to basically change the state of his being between like a gas and a solid almost. So you can maybe call him Gasser instead of Smoker. But
like Sanji like kicks him in the face, and then like his head is just smoke floating around the his ankle.
Yeah, so
how do you even hit that guy?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I mean, they're probably gonna. Here's what I'm gonna estimate in the future. If he needs to fight Luffy and Luffy needs to win, Luffy's probably going to use his rubber powers to twist up and form some kind of vortex that like sucks up his smoky existence. Although you would need to put enough pressure on him for him to want to disperse that much to begin with. So maybe they'll, like start a fire or something that he can't stand in the fire, so he has to disperse, and then maybe they'll like suck up the fire and him with some kind of rubber vortex. And
yeah, you would think Luffy's lungs can stretch infinitely. So like, what if he like takes out like a doobie and like literally smokes all of the smoker up inside of him? That'd be good.
He's gonna do him like Kirby. He's gonna become
he gets his power.
Monkey D smoker.
Yeah, then he'll get his second devil fruit, and then I think you explode. Is that what they said? Has somebody said that yet? If you eat 2 devil fruits, you explode? I might have spoiled an upcoming revelation, but
yeah, I don't believe that I'd heard that. So
it's not actually important. It's an excuse for why people can't have 2 powers. Like, oh yeah, if you eat a second one, you blow up. Spoiler alert. Let's see, what do we have next? The smoker. So yeah, he condenses his smoke, captures everybody, throws Buggy and Alvida in a net that evidently. It says steel net used by the Navy against devil fruit people, and he says now we're just common criminals. So one should expect this net stops them from having superpowers or something.
Yeah, I don't know how exactly that works, but I guess there's some sort of like energy field or some. I've heard this. I don't know if it's necessarily a trope, but like. I don't think this is so uncommon in media where somebody has a power, then it's like some kind of frequency or energy or
kryptonite.
Yeah, like a material. This is that special crystal that we wove the crystal into the fibers, and when it's put on, then the powers are gone. So we said, I didn't expect it to be maybe in here at this point. So this was also sort of a out of left field. Like I feel like this is kind of a large obstacle that could definitely come up again and again, and it's pretty much just there for like 2 panels and then we move on. Mm-hmm. But I thought that was something that definitely was a big red flag for future instances.
Well, maybe Luffy can use the net against Smoker himself. Like, is that how you catch this dude? Just throw the magic net at him?
That's a pretty good point, actually. Yeah, all right, that would probably be more logical, since I guess we have that foreshadowed versus using vacuum powers or vortex powers.
I like the smoker idea a lot more than magic net.
He gets caught up in a hot box, and he just nobody knows what's going on. It is what it is.
So meanwhile, the storm that saved Luffy's life is heating on up, and by heating I mean the exact opposite, because it starts rainstorming, and Moji cannot light the ship on fire. Eggy, was this predicted by you last time? What did we say about this? You might have said that the rain stops him. That I don't know. Maybe you did.
I felt like the whole existence of the storm, the way that it was so coincidental and just seemed like divine intervention, maybe plot intervention. I was like, yeah, I think it's basically going to solve all the problems regardless.
Mm-hmm. But Usopp gets a big win because him and Nami show up and he defeats Moji. Like, he shoots him with a projectile. What was it, like Flame Star, something like that? Defeats him, shoots an egg to distract Richie. So now Usopp, his feats are matching Luffy at Orangetown. Like, he defeated the lion and the dude.
Yeah, Moji goes down with just like one hit. He's just like over there, like standing on the ship. All of a sudden, he's just like, you see
blown
like
the
that.
Fuck out. Maybe his skull is still a little fractured from when Luffy punched him so hard, and this is just the. And then he got beat up by those natives and by Richie, so he's been getting pounded a lot.
It's got that negative feedback loop going on. He's not believing in himself anymore. His bones are weakening as a result. His inherited will is disinherited. He's just weakening every single day.
Meanwhile, Tashigi confronts Zoro, and she gets so humiliated that it's off-screened. Like, we don't even get to see their fight. We just see them starting to fight, and then like he has a sword next to her face, and her sword's been thrown away. What do you think of this?
Well, I know we just did the character tier list here.
Yeah,
where
would this have changed it? Anything in chapter 100 would have changed any of these characters?
I don't think so, which I was kind of relieved because since I didn't read chapter 100 until after the fact, when we did the 100 chapter tier list. But when we did the tier list, it ended up with Kuina and Tashigi being like right next to each other, and they look exactly the same, save for the glasses. So they have an identical character model. I think that Zoro, it even alludes to as much. He has like a flashback of, Kuina. I think basically that was just something that sort of took over. Maybe you might say an inherited, instinctual, knee-jerk reaction, something of a blood memory from his childhood, and something that so drives his passions to be the greatest of all time. I think that's kind of took over, and he wasn't playing around. He wasn't thinking about, let me just buy us some time. He was, putting himself back into his childhood shoes, where he would be fighting Kuina, and that's just that instinct kind of takes over there.
And like he defeats Tashigi so easily, he's like almost pissed off that she can't compare to Kuina, like even as a child. Like, wow, this bitch defeated me 3,000 times and then I disarmed you immediately. Like, of course I'm not going to kill you. You're nothing. It's almost like Mihawk not hunting rabbits with the cannon. Like, why would he kill Tashigi? And also he's just like a good guy, so he doesn't kill, anyway. But he used to kill some people, but he's not going to kill some woman, I guess. Meanwhile, epic fight, Luffy versus Smoker, and Luffy stands no chance. Like, Smoker's clowning on him, using his powers to, like, flash around. He's extremely fast. He's literally fucking Smoke. What can Luffy do to him?
And that would, to me, was really terrifying, is that, he could just, sort of in the same way that Buggy could detach his hand and it comes up behind you and stabs you, Smoker could just have like a cloud there floating in front of you, and all of a sudden it just turns to a fist within one split second, just like crushes your entire skull in.
Yeah, he can disperse like his consciousness like really wide and then make any part of it his main attack weapon. So yeah, Luffy stands no chance. It's basically over. He's not going to make it to the Grand Line. No Pirate King. But then the strange cloaked man with a tattooed face who we saw at the beginning of the chapter with the Gold Roger quote. Let's hear about this man and what he does, Iggy. I want to get your perspective on this.
Well, I thought that it was like, because we just had all these coincidences going on preceding this. Is this like maybe a manifestation of the spirit of Gold Roger? It doesn't quite look like him, but maybe, I don't know if he's in the afterlife or the underworld or whatever this projection is this, or just a vessel that is speaking his will through it. I thought that's what it seemed like to me. It was like it was somebody tied to Gold Roger in some supernatural way, that he just like appears here, and after all this has been going on, and he basically appears just to stop this from happening and to try and move the story along, like all this lightning striking the stocks, this storm coming out of nowhere. This was meant to start moving things along to get Luffy on his way, and it's not going to stop here from this fight. Things need to continue.
Yeah, and a good counter to Smoke would be Wind, and I personally, at this point in the story, as of a reader of 1130, I still cannot confirm whether this character was using a power, but it does say like Wind Blast in the panel when he's like posing as if he's using an attack, and there's a huge wind gust behind him blowing Smoker away so that Luffy can escape. So I would assume that this character has a wind power, if not just storms in general, since he probably saved Luffy at the gallows or whatever. What does he say? He says, what reason would I have to get in the way of another man's voyage? Smoker recognizes him and says, the government's out for your head, or something like that. Do we have any predictions for who or what this character might be?
Well, I guess at the time of my reading it as well, just seeing this very unusual power, I guess it could be a devil fruit power. I guess it would probably make more sense. But it something about it seemed supernatural to me. And when he said that, then I'm like, oh, is this, and obviously they wanted Gold Roger's head. They killed him, executed him. But all right, so maybe it's not Gold Roger though. It's probably just another strong pirate, strong devil fruit user perchance that has a large bounty out. But that was just the way I took away when I was reading it. Was like, oh, it's supernatural. This is Silver Roger. I don't know. There's something. It's just. But now that I think about it more logically, yeah, that's probably more on point. That it would just be some wanted devil fruit using pirates who has wind powers, and that would probably explain a lot of this more simply. I seem to get caught up in these very fantastical ideas, and then immediately it's just more grounded in reality than what my first thoughts
devil
are.
Fruit reality. Yeah, if anything weird or wacky's happening, there's a good chance it's a devil fruit power. And devil fruits, there's no restrictions. They can do anything as far as we know. So, just if you can't explain something, write it off as a devil fruit. And this big wind blast does allow the buggy pirates to escape. So, double good intention there, I suppose.
Yeah, I've got to keep that in my mind from now on. Well, then we're getting into the Grand Line, so now it's probably going to be some other craziness that I can't understand the situation of right away, but I'm going to try to lean in a little bit more on thinking things are devil fruit instead of thinking that they're ghosts or...
Yeah. Did Laboon eat the apartment fruit that turns his body into an apartment? Because otherwise I'm confused about what's going on with him, but we'll get to that pretty quick because we're almost done with Loguetown. The whole crew, they get on their ship, they go off, and then we get in the rainstorm. All 5 of our crewmates put their foot on a barrel, they state their dream, and they head off for the Grand Line. Any other thoughts on Chapter 100, Aggie? Or Loguetown in general, because we got to put it on the tier list.
Well, I guess we must not be... If we're going to put it on the tier list now, then there's not a part 2 of it, because I thought maybe...
No, it's chapter, I think, 96 to 100 or something, 95. It's just, we finished it. That's the end of Loguetown.
Well, it had a lot of potential, I think. It really did. And it did not exactly, didn't really be what I thought it was going to be. So I don't think for me, it's even going to be B. I think it's going to be C, and I ain't talking about the pre-Christian era.
This is your lowest ranked arc so far, Aggie.
No, I thought Romance Dawn was C, isn't it?
You have everything in B, I thought. Maybe I should pull it up, but...
Okay. I mean, I think for the same reason that I gave Romance Dawn a C, is that it's interesting, and I think honestly I would put Romance Dawn above. You
gave Romance Dawn a B. I gave it a C. You have nothing in C so far.
Well, my mistake. Loguetown, welcome to your groundbreaking C category.
Okay. Me personally, I don't mind that it's short because I think all 5 or so of the chapters are just jam-packed full of great information. Some iconic imagery of Luffy up on where Roger died, up on I keep wanting to call it gallows, but he's not getting hanged. It's whatever. The return of Buggy is so crucial to me. I love every moment of this arc, and in the anime, actually, there's expanded material because that Oda wanted to include, but he just couldn't fit it in the manga. Like a story about Usopp, and I think he learns about maybe his dad or something. I only saw it one time, but that was pretty good. I like Loguetown better than Syrup Village, Romance Dawn. It's pretty up there. It's either the king of B tier or at the very bottom of A for me. I think because it is short and it doesn't really have a long emotional storyline to sink your teeth into, it's more of just celebrating where we've been and giving us a taste of what's to come, all wrapped into one little arc. It's a prologue and an epilogue, all wrapped into one. Beautiful. Fuck it. It's low A tier for me. right under Baratier. That's right. Aggie goes C, I go A. We're not always gonna agree, people. That's right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll agree with you that it's very dense in content for sure. It's got a lot of good things, but it just didn't go enough. They got me started. I'm talking about they were revving my engine, and then my battery died or something. I don't know, but a lot of potential, but it didn't see it through enough for me to get good marks for me. But it was fine, great for what it was, but it needed a little more to rank higher for me. It didn't have it.
And that is the end of the East Blue Saga, the prologue of One Piece, 100 chapters. We are now, I think the volume 12 is titled The Legend Begins or something like that. Like, this is the true beginning of the Straw Hat Crew's adventures at Reverse Mountain. Take it away, Aggie. Let's start the Reverse Mountain arc.
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned the title of the volume here, because this is going to spoil a little bit, but what I did not, maybe it's the translation I was reading, but at the cover of chapter 100 for volume 12, in my translation, it says on the cover, Baroque Works, on the cover for chapter 100, volume 12. Well, why does it say it? It's also, and just because I happen to have paged to the cover, didn't read any, but I paged to the cover of volume 13. It also says Baroque Works. Mm-hmm. But I mean, that makes more sense at that point because we've been introduced to Baroque Works, and we weren't introduced to them in chapter 100. So,
right. So volumes 1 through 11, where it says Baroque Works on volume 12, on those it says East Blue, because that's the East Blue saga. So now we're in the Baroque Works saga. Which, personally, I call the Alabasta Saga, and I think most people do. But I guess the manga officially wants to call it the Baroque Works Saga, which is whatever. Cool name.
Well, I'm glad that you were able to have that information for me and for our audience, because I just thought I was like, oh, that's weird. I guess it just kind of, since that's all I'd ever seen, it hadn't dawned on me that it would be different. And then all of a sudden, like, by the time I finished this volume, I'm like, hey, wait a minute, it said it at the... But anyways.
Yeah, it's not how I would have done it, but it's how they did it. So where do you want to go with... Chapter 101 ends with... They're coming back down the mountain, and Luffy says, I see it! The Grand Line! And that's the final panel. And I had like a horrible vision in my mind, Aggie, of at some point in the future, there's going to be a chapter that ends with, the One Piece! I see it! And then, like, that's the final panel. And then I bet he's going to do, like, a 20-chapter flashback, like, in between showing us what the One Piece is. So, like, Luffy will see it, and then we have to wait half a year to actually get a panel of it ourselves. I just know that's going to happen, and it's going to be reminiscent of fucking chapter 101 here.
Yeah. For 101, it was... really interesting because they have this crazy like whacked out like they got to go up a mountain. They have to go up a mountain.
And that's how everybody does. Like everybody in the world, that's the entrance to the Grand Line, is this one mountain that flows up from all four oceans and then goes down into one. Like, who the fuck designed this? What is going on?
There must be something, for the audience. If you don't know, I have the super secret superpower. It's called autism. Yeah. And I'm sitting here, and I think I read over this chapter like 4 times because I'm trying to like make logical sense of this. I don't know why.
It is hard.
For some reason, like in this manga specifically, I don't know why I've like had this like logic itch that I need to like make sense of things. It doesn't make any sense, but I guess it's because they're talking about ships and they're talking about the sea and they're talking about all this stuff. I'm trying to basically put my best knowledge that I have in real world and like transplant this onto the material. And so when I'm just like, okay, I guess this would work because they would have enough pressure behind them and they're going through this narrow opening, and it reminds me of another material I really enjoy, Welcome to the NHK, where there's this psychology book that keeps on getting referenced, and Sato, he is talking about like he's took college level, like entry level philosophy, and he knows this dream to make up that has like sexual implications. So what I'm thinking about, like, the going Mary is entering this narrow canal, and they're going through this narrow canal with a lot of pressure, and they're being delivered into the new world. That I'm thinking it like this is like a birth of adventure through the birth canal of and it's a rocky road. There might be death along the way, just like real birth and real life. And that's why I read this like 4 times, because I was going through a fucking manic psychotic spasm in my brain trying to make this make sense, and I don't know what I was going through, but it was going crazy. Anyways, and I really loved the giant Neptunians. The Neptunians, they come up, and it is these giant sea creatures. Momu, eat your heart out. This is these things are like the King Momu.
Like their entire ship is as big as some of these creatures' eyeball. Like there's that great double page panel, just like how tiny they are on the monster's head. So yeah, you don't want to fuck around in the calm belt, I guess. You could accidentally get eaten. Like Usopp fell into a creature's mouth and Luffy had to grab him out.
Yeah, and spoilers ahead, but there's going to be some more eating going on. It is what it is, Neptunian tube.
Yeah, trying to logically wrap your mind around Reverse Mountain is perhaps a fool's errand. And again, I don't want to spoil the future too much, but we still don't know the answer to these mysteries, okay? Like, we're still waiting, because if you really think about it, having... And we see the red line here, and it's so tall, like this thing that cuts the world in half, this tall mountainous thing, it's so tall that they can't even see the top of it through the clouds. And in my opinion, having a structure like that cuts the entire world in half all the way around completely, that doesn't seem like the most natural thing in the world. And the fact that Reverse Mountain is part of this structure, and it has like a canal with, like you said, there's like weird gates that were built into the canal, and it goes up the mountain and then all feeds out into this otherwise restricted stretch of land. You have to feel like all of this was perhaps designed by somebody, maybe with like I can create mountains devil fruit power, who fucking knows. Because there's no way the world naturally became this way. Like, there's literally gates built in. Somebody did this.
Well, it also reminded me with that particularly of I'm not going to say I've taken the flat Earth pill. I do not believe that there's a flat Earth. However,
in One Piece or in our world?
In our world.
Okay, because that is a One Piece theory. There's also like One Piece hollow Earth theories that I think are pretty good.
Well. Maybe I'll.
Or like it's like hollow inverted Earth, like the world that we see is already in the hollow Earth, and that they need to get out, which I don't think is true.
Yeah, probably not.
No, like you can see the sun and the stars and the moon, so they're probably not inside of the Earth.
They're in a giant Laboon that the entire Earth is inside a Giga Laboon.
Yeah, I think that's part of the theory. Is like, he had an island and an atmosphere and a sky inside of Laboon. So, but I don't think so. Yeah.
But from my understanding, for some reason, there's been this guy that's been algorithmically recommended to me lately who is very into flat Earth. And I guess the idea is the world as we know it is surrounded by a giant ice wall. And outside of this ice wall, there's 30 more continents.
Wow.
You have to be one of the ascended humans to, and it seems to share some parallels with this volume even, because it's like you get out and there's essentially like a checkpoint continent of, if you're one of the ascended humans from inner Earth, that, all right, you're going to stop here and you're going to be tested at like the entry continent. And then if you're that good or whatever, then you might be able to go a little bit further than like Valhalla, I think is like all the way for the ascended outer earthers, you have to be like the creme de la creme to be able to get into Valhalla. So maybe that could be like the Ratel or the Raphael or whatever it's I already forgot of
Raftel.
Raftel, yeah, of Outer Earth. Who knows?
I hate to spoil the future, but the Valhalla stuff we might be getting around there right now in the story, Iggy. So shout out to 1,000 chapters from now. You might be getting a good point here with all this talk. I mean, you got their destination pretty much nailed.
We might actually really be living in the One Piece world. We thought, we're just Oda, he's actually one of the ascended Outer Earthers. He's just bringing this knowledge back to us. It's the most celebrated manga in our Inner Earth minds.
I wasn't alive 500 years ago. For all I know, all this stuff did happen. Well, you think some dude just made all of this up? There's too many details, too many characters. He's got to be stealing it from history. But let's cover this arc. It's only 5 chapters, I think. And, should I spoil my opinion on it, or should we talk about it real quick?
Well, I think I might have got a little bit of a foreshadowing when I was like, wow, this is pretty epic, and you're like, eh. I mean, I guess in and of itself, or if it's being its own arc, I guess, is it its own arc?
Yeah. Reverse Mountain. Everything with Laboon is its own arc. We're so used to One Piece arcs being like 20 chapters lately. Now we're getting a bunch of like 5 chapter arcs in a row. Okay,
well, then just go ahead and speak your piece on it, because I think I might find it more agreeable under those circumstances.
Because if I give mine, we always let you put it on the tier list first. So let's just go through the story here. But of course, they come down Reverse Mountain. They see there's a giant fucking mountain-sized whale, and it has a bunch of scars on its head, because evidently he bashes his head against the red line all day, every day. What do you think about Laboon and his struggle, Aggie?
Well, it's sad, but I'm not sure, because I feel like in comparison to other, I think Chow Chow is probably going to be the closest parallel we have here to like a sort of a beast or an animal, and having a special connection with some humans and then losing those humans. I think just because here we're looking at him having a connection with these pirates, and pirates, they're going to do what they do, and they resign themselves to this dangerous life, versus somebody who's like a pet food shop owner who doesn't really have it, as so much on his plate that death or some kind of horrible exile, slavery, etc. could be in his future. So it didn't really hit me as emotionally with Laboon's struggle here. But at the same time, it did a little bit, because we see, he basically opted to dedicate and he's not living his natural life. He's for whatever reason, no matter how much sense it made, he did decide to dedicate his life to this one group of pirates. And even when he's able to understand logically from his friend who his master, his keeper, his doctor, his physician, however you want to, Crocus. Yeah. The caretaker, he's been telling him for 50 years that it makes absolutely no sense. So I think just the fact that he's so wayward and he's just resigned himself to this and for so long, it is a bit tragic.
And the fate of Laboon's pirate friends is left ambiguous, like it's been 50 years. Were they just immediately slaughtered? I think Crocus at one point says he has a reliable source that those pirate friends of Laboon fled the Grand Line and did not come back for him. What would your theory be? You think they just fucking got killed immediately, or did they abandon poor Laboon on purpose?
Well, from what I've seen and heard about pirates up until this point, I don't think that they would feel a great service to Laboon. I don't think that they would probably mind just abandoning him completely without saying anything. I don't think it would weigh too heavy on their conscience if I say he's one of these beasts, who cares?
If they had that attitude, would they have befriended a whale in the first place? Because I saw this movie called Avatar 2, and they said whales are very sociable and very smart. So, it's not a small deal to make friends with a whale, I don't think.
I guess
and then
I don't
also
know
to
how
add to his tragedy is that since they went over Reverse Mountain and his like home family's on the other side of the red line, he's now so large there's literally no way for him to return home, and that's why he's smashing his head all day, I guess, desperately trying to destroy it, which good luck. It's not working out so well. So yeah, he's kind of just like
Sisyphus allegory here in a way, yeah.
Yeah, and now he's just stuck here waiting for somebody who's probably not coming. But yeah, again, yeah, like you said, at least he has Crocus, and they have their friendship. And then of course Luffy gives him a new reason to live and says, "Hey, I'm gonna draw my hilarious pirate insignia on you, and I'm gonna beat the shit out of you, and you're gonna fight me." And the fight with Luffy and Laboon, a little bit underrated. That's a pretty good fight, honestly. Like he gets headbutted against the island, but Luffy just, he bounces back. Doesn't even matter if a whole whale's doing that to him. And he says, "You know what? I'm gonna come back. Go around the whole world, come right back over this mountain, and we'll fight again." Gives Laboon something to live for. Should we cover all the stuff that happens inside of Laboon and these Baroque Works characters that we meet?
Yes, Miss Wednesday and Mr. Nine. So Crocus, I guess, so to run it back a little bit for people who don't know, Laboon basically eats everybody. He eats the entire ship and everything like that. He just like swallows all of his. So they're inside Laboon, on this island that's in stomach acid.
It's kind of like the Kame house. Like I think it might have been inspired by the house from Dragon Ball Z, the little island, or I guess Dragon Ball, I should have said. And yeah, there's just like this old man who just lives on a little island inside of this whale's stomach. A real Noah situation. That was Noah, right? Or is it Jonah? Jonah. Was this based on Jonah and the whale, Aggie?
It might have been. I'm just wondering why Crocus's hair, it looks like
a flower?
Some kind of, yeah. That's like a fungus or something, a natural reaction to living inside of a whale's stomach for so many years.
Crocus has one of the funniest lines in the whole thing so far when they're kind of threatening him and pointing the cannon at him. And he says, "Forget it. Somebody's going to die. Me." Like he's just straight up admitting, "Yeah, you're gonna kill me." But then later on, when Baroque Works are shooting 2 cannonballs to try to hurt the whale, Crocus tanks both of them. So he was fucking bluffing about being weak. Like he would not have died if Sanji shot him with the cannon, evidently. So this is another tough old man.
And to hide his power level, you never know when some kind of ship is showing up inside of a whale. You gotta be cautious. You don't survive that long and that many years living inside of a whale's stomach without being a little bit cunning.
Any other thoughts on Crocus while we're on him?
Yeah, so he apparently engineered, because we see Wednesday and Nine, they're running like through this hallway. There's like sealed chambers, like whatever, I forget, like hatches, I guess you would say, with like wheels
like built
like
into the whale's skin.
Yeah.
Like Luffy opens a hatch on his head and goes inside of it.
Yeah, Crocus. It's very bizarre. Everything like this. These couple of chapters here, really, this arc, I'll give it this much. It's got fever dream qualities to me. Like I know I kind of said that. Like I felt manic about like the mountain, but then at the end of that chapter, it goes 101. Like the ship's breaking apart and they're taking on water and all this stuff's going on, and then they're inside of a android whale that's been hitting a giant mountain that's all the way to the top of the sky for 50 years, and there's an old man with a flower growing out of his head that's been living in stomach acid on the Kame house. It's just a lot going on.
I can't believe all that insanity, and I feel like it's the low point of the story so far. Like that's the magic of One Piece. You can have the most incredulous magical shit happening, and I'll be like, yeah, this is boring. Let's move on.
I mean, like Loguetown to me, or Loguetown had a lot going on, but it was standard enough, I guess, fair for. There was a lot, shocking stuff that kind of just went away pretty quick, but anyway, I'm backtracking there. It was a nice and touching little arc here, but Yeah, other than being fever dream mania and having a little bit of heartstring tugging, it wasn't as impactful. It was more or less to me, hey, they got into the Grand Line, had a little adventure, and Crocus gave them something called a log pose.
Yeah, it's like a special compass that'll just take them to a specific, the next island on the route, since you can't use a normal compass on the Grand Line with all the crazy magnetic shit. And they do get a log post that was dropped by the Baroque Works agents, but then like Luffy and Sanji break it while beating the shit out of each other comically. So thankfully, yeah, they do get a new one from Crocus. I was curious about all of that, why Oda wrote it that way, where they get one and then break it and then get another one. But I guess it's just to make it make sense for these characters to join them and need a ride. And we don't really know why that's significant yet, because we haven't... And I guess we see them at the very end of the volume. They're helping to fight Zoro, so true betrayal here.
It seemed to me that wasn't it? I think Zoro mentions that they seemed familiar. I forget exactly. To double check.
Later on, he says he was invited to join Baroque Works at one point, because it's like a troop of bounty hunters pretty much, and that's why the whole operation at Whiskey Peak is to capture pirates coming into the Grand Line and get their bounties and stuff. So he was invited as a bounty hunter, and he said, fuck that, fuck you guys. And now that he's a pirate, he gets to go to war with them. But we're not there yet. We're almost there. Do you remember Crocus's final dialogue as he's watching the ship float off, sail away?
Well, to be quite sincerely honest, I cannot say that I do.
Earlier on, Crocus, he said, yeah, only one crew ever made it to raft till the final island. Did he say which crew it was, Aggie?
Oh, was it Gold Roger?
Yeah, is it safe to assume the One Piece is going to be on that island then? If, it's the last island and he's the only one who's been there? Is that probably where the One Piece is going to be?
Well, I'm going to say this. I would like to believe that. Now, I have the luxury of having a little bit of foresight here that there's another 1,000 chapters and we're at the Grand Line coming up on Island 1 out of, let's say, I don't know, 7 or 8 islands, maybe 10. And I don't know if it's going to take 100 chapters per island.
Just to be clear, that was just a visual representation. There are hundreds of islands.
So
hundreds of islands in the Grand Line.
Those are the major key points or the major waypoints.
It was just an illustration to represent, I think.
So I've probably been putting too much stock in small rectangle of lines since it's been I've been laser focused on it ever since I've seen it.
Yeah, imagine the One Piece world is so much larger than ours, you can't even grasp. There's thousands of countries instead of, we have 140 on Earth? Fuck. This place is big.
Well, that's good to know. With that being said, then I'm going to wager that there's a very good chance that it's on Raftel, yes.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so we get that information, and then as they're leaving, Crocus says, could that bunch be the pirates we've been waiting for all this time? That boy has a strange air about it. Roger? Does this guy know Roger? He said he used to be a doctor on a pirate crew.
Well, I guess let's see. If Gold Roger was executed 20 years ago, maybe. I guess.
What, did he abandon Laboon himself to go join up with Roger? Because Laboon's been there for 50 years?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that wouldn't make any sense if he's been there the whole time with Laboon. But he's talking to him here, so evidently Roger has been waiting for a bunch of pirates. What the fuck does that mean? He's dead. What's he waiting for?
Well, hey, I guess, you know what? He probably wouldn't have known that Gold Roger was executed because he's been there for 50 years, right? And Gold Roger was executed 20 years ago.
He probably gets the newspaper.
Inside the whale.
Every single pirate that goes to the Grand Line has to go past him, so he can't be isolated from the world that much.
Yeah, I suppose he's probably had enough time to hear about it.
And he's not always inside the whale.
Okay.
Like he's also at the lighthouse that's, in the real world outside.
That's true, yeah. Right, yeah. You're right.
Any final thoughts on Reverse Mountain before we put it on the tier list? And I need to hear your spot before I put mine.
I don't want to start getting to a glut of C's now when the arcs are reduced in size here.
That's a fair reason. It's too short to be as significant as the B tier arcs. Why not?
Yeah, and that's just where I'm gonna feel like I'm gonna put it at, is probably C tier. For one, the size, the emotional content, it just to me was a little bit less than the previous. The craziness of the Grand Line, kind of starting to get a taste of that. I do appreciate that, but I think, overall, it just is not enough for me to put it up with the B's. I think I'm probably gonna say, I'm just gonna stick with my gut there, because I think
above or below Loguetown.
I think that I'm going to put it above Loguetown.
Okay.
Because, we're getting into the Grand Line, so I like that. There's a little bit of emotion to it, but it's mostly informative and also substantive for the beginnings of the Grand Line. So for that reason, those reasons, I'm going to put it in a high C.
As for me, and this is also an arc that I think is made worse retroactively once you get to know some of these characters more, and you're like, oh, you were whaling. You want to kill this whale? That's cool. It does not hit for me very much. In other ways, the arc is retroactively made better by future arcs, and we'll get to that at some point. But as of right now, reading it, it's done the least for me out of everything. I have Romance Dawn at C tier, and I certainly like it a whole lot more than this one. So I'm breaking out the D tier, Aggie. Never before seen D tier ranking on the One Piece Virgin podcast.
I guess I hadn't even considered the D tier, but all very fair ranking, I think. So I might need to reassess maybe about 10 arcs down the line, maybe do a little bit of a reconsideration, maybe on page over mine, but
I'm sure once we finish, we'll do another arc tier list, but it is good to rank them as you read them to see how you felt about it at the time. Because a lot of these arcs, like, again, once you read stuff in the future, the context changes so much that a lot of these arcs will go up, or usually up, not usually down. Should we move on to the opening 3 chapters of... I assume you really enjoy the name of this island, Aggie, Whiskey Peak.
Right. Yeah, I think I traveled there a little bit last night. I think the pressure change from Reverse Mountain might have reversed my IQ a little bit today. Maybe it's my Elvis wig coated in hair product that I'm still huffing as we speak. But either way, yes, very exciting. I was coming in, a little bit apprehensive because, they have the one log pose, so they had to take these strangers that Zoro was a little suspect of, so that made me a little suspect of. Also, they were in the whale and they were acting strangely inside the whale. But with that being said, regardless, they're coming in to the first island of the Grand Line. They're ready for anything. And what do they get? Well, the chapter kind of lets you know. The chapter's called The Town of Welcome. And what a welcome it is. They're like on the shore. They're like, we love pirates. Let's go. Pirates.
And you alluded to me yesterday that you were not fooled for 1 second, Aggie. Is that right?
I mean, it's instantaneous.
It's a little too obvious.
Like, people who are fond of pirates, or who get along with pirates are like the Barati. They're the fighting crap cooks. They're not going to sit there and be like, yo, what's up, pirate? They're going to probably punch you in the face and laugh. That's more of the pirate greeting or the pirate welcome.
Yeah, what would have happened if Don Krieg showed up to Whiskey Peak? And like, they're, oh, we love you. Here's all of our food. Is he still gonna like be attacking everybody and like just shooting random people? He's just that evil.
I'm gonna guess yes, because it's one thing to.
So how are these people still fucking alive? Like, surely other Don Kriegs have come by who did not enjoy their welcome and just opened fire, right? Like, what the fuck?
Well, I suspected that there was ulterior motives immediately, so I guess one of the first things I thought of was that there was an illusory aspect here. So it could be like, you'd come into even if you were going in and you just started storming with troops and you started opening fire or whatever, maybe these people would be able to just quick snap in the snap of a finger. And I think there's at one point, the sister, like the nun, has a poison gas cross. So something like that, to where they could just like, this hand I'm sticking out to you has a blade come out, whatever, like there's a poison, there's a thorn on the rose instantly that could just be activated as necessary. So I think we get with our crew a bit more of the hospitality, because they're willing to drink from the glass, they're willing to eat from the trough. I think that if that wasn't the case, they would be ready to be combative at any moment.
Just bust out the bounty hunting skills at that point and drop the illusion.
That would be my guess, but yeah, it was like... and then when they were feasting and drinking and everything like that, I actually felt a little more... like I might have put myself in their shoes. Like I was relaxed. I'm like, okay, we're all...
It's party time. Hell yeah. Everybody's Zoro drinking. And Nami like chugging down beers. Yeah, even 17-year-old Usopp's drinking. Good role model.
Mm-hmm.
Did you like watching all the Straw Hats drinking booze? Because I don't know if we've seen much of this other than maybe Zoro.
Well, Nami being a professional drinker, I guess I probably could have assumed that, but, she's a little rougher and tougher than, we might have originally at our first introduction to her been led to believe. But it makes me think, she would have had to been really on top of her game, because if she has that kind of alcohol tolerance and she was out on these missions with the Arlong pirates, these are some ruthless fishmen. I wouldn't want to be drunk around them. Maybe she had to drink for that reason, just to keep her tolerance up, so she could, still have some wits about her in those situations.
The stats end up being Zoro outdrinks 13 men before he passes out, and Nami outdrinks 15. But then Zoro's like, he's fine because he's fighting everybody. So I guess he just pretended to get too drunk. And, so ultimately, the jury is out on who would win in a drinking match between Nami and Zoro. Because if Zoro's faking it, who knows? Do you think you could take on Nami head to head?
Well, I would like to say that I could, but I don't know. I mean, 15 men, that's quite the sample size to outdrink. If it was even 5 men, I could say, okay, well, maybe they might have been some lightweights, but when you get to 15 and you're in a town that's known for celebration, but I could also say this, that the our welcomers are deceptive people as well, because they all seem to be ready to, combat Zoro once he reveals himself to be of a sound mind and he's not too intoxicated to fight. So they might have only had 1 or 2 and said, "Oh, I'm so drunk, I'm gonna pass out." The
big buff nun woman says that she was just drinking like tea the whole time, so they were just pretending to drink with them.
Right. So their drinking accolades might have been not quite what we thought they were. It is what it is, drinking too. They might have had 1 beer and outdrank 15 people, but they seem to be having a good time. They drank enough that they did pass out. Yeah. So,
and I don't want to say more plot holes to analyze here, Aggie, but we did talk about Krieg going through the Calm Belt. I might have another one here. Okay, so what's the plan? We're all secretly bounty hunters, but we pretend to be a town that loves pirates. They come in, we get them drunk, so then we can get their bounty. And they say here, the value drops by 30% if you kill them, because the government wants a public execution. People who are longtime fans of One Piece might be shocked by what I just said, because that never comes up again in any regard, ever. Never, ever, ever do we ever hear about, if you capture them dead instead of alive, you get 30% less money from the bounty. That's only brought up here. Meanwhile, this place looks like it's covered in giant cactuses, but we get a little zoom in. It turns out all the cactus barbs are graves. Thousands of graves, I assume marking the tombs of the pirates that were killed here. So they got a 30% discount on those thousands of pirates, but now that Luffy's here, fuck it, we need the full 30 mil. We can't kill these people. We can't poison all of the alcohol and just kill them easily. What the fuck were they thinking? Just poison them. You've evidently killed thousands of pirates based on these gravestones. Why are you not killing these ones? The fuck is happening?
Well, you know what? Here, let me tell you this. Because they go for Zoro, and I think they say something like, "Oh, we think he might actually be the captain because of his strength and his
so
combat
badass.
prowess." So maybe these could be like crewmate graves, because if they were just willing to kill, okay, we don't need him, he's not the man with the bounty, then we could just kill all the etceteras.
The Usops of the crew.
Yeah, kill all the Usops and the Zoros, and then save the Luffys for the grand prize.
Yeah, turn them in alive. That might make sense, Iggy, okay? Plot hole filled in. We did it, folks. We solved Django. We solved Whiskey Peak.
And still bizarre. Like, why? I mean, I guess it's good real estate. You're probably not going to use that for anything else, but just like you're up like on like a rounded fucking like rock, like standing at a 70-degree angle to like dig a grave.
Yeah, who's installing these? Like this village. Another plot hole. This village is starving to death, so they have to send out 2 agents to poach a whale for meat. But then 5 pirates show up and they give them unlimited food? Where did this food come from? Why not just poison their drink immediately and keep the food for yourself? If you're starving, you're fucking hunting down whales. What are these people doing? For 30 million berries, is it worth it to give up your whole food supply? And who's building these graves? You have, like, how much money is being spent on the tombstones? There's thousands of them. Who's paying for this?
Because I don't know if realistically that they would have space for these graves, so they might get a name and maybe they just like throw the body out in the sea or something, which wouldn't be very,
Osama bin Laden-esque.
It might be a little bit unhygienic. Maybe they get eaten by sea monsters or something if they throw them out there. And then they just mark their kill, or they mark who they killed. But then if they're naming each, which they zooms in on one of the grave, you can see that there's like a name on the grave cross. Then if they're just killing crewmates, then that might not make a lot of sense for them to be like actually naming everybody who they've killed. But yeah, I would say even beyond that was the most immediate, like, irredeemable plot hole, or about the fact that they're all starving to death and we're coming back, we don't have the whale meat.
Well, like, they even bitch about it, like, why are we doing this? Like, I think that's in the dialogue. I looked at it, the name on the grave that we actually see says Mr. Sacrifice. So maybe they're just writing that on all of them, like everybody who gets killed is just a sacrifice.
Maybe they say sacrifice because they're sacrificing a portion of their money by having to kill them there on the island instead of taking them in alive. So that those are just all the people that maybe their protocol is take them in alive, but unfortunately they've had to kill like 1,000 people. And I'm sure that this Whiskey Peak, I'm sure it's been here for some time. It's probably not just, they didn't just scope it out. So maybe they've had enough years to accumulate a certain amount of kills. But yeah, overall though, it's a good system they have in place, because obviously the entering of the Grand Line is so tumultuous that surely anybody who's able to do it, even our grand heroes on the Straw Hat crew, they're gonna likely fall for it, because even if they are Krieg level resilient, I mean, even Don Krieg took a bite of that delicious Barati food, so if there'd been poison in it, it could have been game over right there for even Don Krieg if it was strong enough poison. So I think a desperate pirate will be willing to fall for this trap if they don't have their wits about them, which thankfully Zoro does here, and is able to go head-to-head with many of the Baroque Work agents.
Yeah, we basically get 2 full chapters of Zoro soloing like 100 people, and it's just nonstop Zoro shenanigans in action. Are there any particular panels that stuck out to you that you want to talk about?
Yes, let's see if I can remember the beautiful woman's name here.
The big nun lady? What is that? Like Mrs. something? Does she have a name? Miss... I thought it should have been... It might be Miss Monday or something, and I was thinking it should have been Miss Sunday if she's a nun, but missed opportunity.
Miss Monday is a buff muscle mommy who, frankly, is drawn kind of freakishly. I'm not gonna lie, and I'm not just talking about being buff, but like.
Are you excited to see her cast in the live action for season 2? Because it's coming up, and I think they're gonna do it. Just get a real muscle mommy, a big black lady.
Okay, I mean, all right. Okay, I didn't know that, but yeah, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I think it's legit.
I'm curious to just see how such a masculine woman, even in the anime, I don't know if they talk about her in the anime or whatever, but I feel like, I know we just watched a great movie the other night, Halloween Hubie, and Shaquille
Hubie Halloween.
Or Hubie Halloween. Yeah. And Shaquille O'Neal's wife in that film has a beautiful voice that sounds like extremely masculine man. So I don't know if they're going to go that angle here. But I actually do have, I think they refer to her as the sister. I do have here that canonically the nun of the Baroque Works is Miss Katharina.
Okay, so that's like her real name, and her agent name must be Miss Monday?
No, Miss Monday is the muscle mommy.
Oh, so who's Miss Catalina or whatever you said?
I think they just refer to her as, like, they kept calling her sister, like, as that's like a Catholic thing or something. I don't know if they did mention, they might, but as I recall, when they are referencing her in the manga, they're just like, oh, all right, go now, sister. But yeah, so that's my best for a code name. That's my best guess, but Miss Monday, quite a
yeah, she
woman.
puts on the brass knuckles and fucking pounds Zoro's face right into the dirt, but he shows her true power. He's like, oh, you thought that was tough? And then, like, we just see him holding her face in the fucking grip of his hand. And as muscly as she might look, like literally drawn 4 times denser biceps than Zoro. Does not matter. Zoro is so much physically stronger, it's not even a question. Which again, I'm glad that we have like 2 enemies in a row. Zoro is like proving his superiority over a woman, like Tashigi and now Miss Monday. Why do they keep putting Zoro up against women, Agi?
Well, maybe it would be a
backstory baggage.
For Miss Monday here, we could say maybe he had intent to restrain his power. Like, if he's looking at a group of 20 guys, he's just, a single sword slash, they all fall over. Maybe he's not trying to, slash up a woman if he doesn't need to, but, if he's put in a position where he has to defend himself, that's what I told the courts when I went on.
Yeah, and he does get, like, the nun who shoots out the poison gas out of the crucifix and is working with, like, a little kid, and they attack Zoro, and then he hits them with the back of his sword. So he doesn't slash them, he just, like, I guess, hits them really hard with this big, heavy sword to knock them out. So yeah, he won't, he doesn't necessarily want to kill all of them, like if it's a child, but he'll hit it. He'll fucking attack a kid, he doesn't care.
Hey, I'm
looking at the panel, and the kid kind of looks like Zoro, too, when he's pointing the gun at him. Anyway. Any other parts of this scene you want to talk about? Because it mostly is just fun action. Not much to really dissect, I don't think. Somehow Zoro cut a hole in the ground that they all fell into like a trap, like Team Rocket style. Don't know how that happened.
I guess I think probably my number one thing I could say about this whole combat scene, I really enjoyed the variety of the notable Baroque Works members, because we're not just getting a bunch of assassins in a certain uniform or whatever. These are all people who they live by deception, and they have these identities crafted specifically to deceive pirates. And so we get a lot of variety here. They need to make everything look on the up and up. And, I'm sure they probably have some facet in the community that they work that is relevant to their appearance. But at the end of the day, they are all bounty hunters. That's why it's called 100 Bounty Hunters. So no confusion here. That's how they make their living. But that was something I enjoyed first and foremost, probably outside of the action. Then, the quirky ways that the fighting goes down, like cutting the hole in the brass knuckle ground pound that shatters the ground, but Zoro just wipes the blood off and
there's
keeps going.
Very much a Donkey Kong moment where Zoro's literally climbing a ladder, and the big mannish woman is throwing a barrel at him. That's straight up Donkey Kong video game. I do have to go pee terribly bad as usual, Aggie, so should we wrap this up? I don't know. There's not much from the cover story to really talk about. Helmeppo just, I guess, escapes his father and gets back on the ship. Was there anything else from that?
I don't think so right now, because basically that single way you phrase it there is it.
Yeah, that's all that happened.
We're, which isn't unusual for a volume to end on a bit of a cliffhanger here, but even for the cover story, we've got Helmeppo escapes. Morgan on the lifeboat gets back, and he's basically pleading with Kobe, saying, "Oh shit, yep, my bad." So that's basically where we're at there. Yeah, I think that we're here. We're at Whiskey Peak.
What are your predictions for the rest of Whiskey Peak? Is it going to end in one more chapter like last time, or do we have a lot more volumes here?
Is this would be something I would predict to end more quickly. Because they're going to wake up and be like, oh, hey, Zoro just beat up all the bounty hunters. Well, I guess, we should probably be on our way. So maybe they'll...
let's get the fuck out of here.
Might be a little conversation with, what's his name? Irebapois or Iragapois. He had some long, freakish name.
The mayor with the big curly hair?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think later on he's known as Igaram, but for now, that's his whatever fucking fake mayor name. I don't know.
Yeah.
Mr. 8th, I think.
Maybe I could see a little bit of communication with him, maybe they could try to get him to turn a new leaf or something. Probably not, because if this Baroque Works, I don't know if they have any other cells outside of this 100, if this is the full Baroque Works camp here.
Well, evidently we're in the Baroque Works saga, so is it going to take a whole saga to fight these fucking people? What the hell's going on?
Now that you reminded me of that is pretty true.
And we haven't really talked about the unluckies, that Vulture and Otter who show up and drop bombs on people.
Yeah, I don't know if I recall those. Those were in this volume?
Yeah, they show up at the Laboon part. They drop when they failed their mission, the Unluckies just show up and drop a bomb on them, and then they fall in the water, and that's how they meet Sanji and Luffy, and they all climb up on the rock together. And then here, if you look at chapter, let's see, 106, at the very end, we see the Unluckies looking over Whiskey Peak. So they have followed Miss Wednesday and Mr. Nine or whoever the fuck. But so maybe maybe there's more than just this island of Baroque Works.
Yeah.
Because those Unluckies are out and about doing somebody's bidding.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't know how I seem to have missed them.
It's easy to miss. They show up in 2 panels in this, whatever.
Yep. All right, so with that being said, my prediction since I did, at least read the cover page of Volume 13 as I came up on it after I read the last chapter of Volume 12. They'll probably, I think they're going to escape. I still feel like they're going to get away from Whiskey Peak sooner than later. And then they'll probably be alerted as, they got their, hold on, and the log... I guess I don't know if we got an answer for how long it's going to take.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. The log pose, you have to stay on an island for a random amount of time before it can log the directions to the next island. And when they show up, that was one of like the suspicious things was she asked the mayor, hey, how long will it take? And he's like, don't worry about that. Just go relax, go drink. So yeah, we don't know how long they have to even stay here. Okay.
I've been bouncing back and forth here the last few minutes, but here we go. My final prediction here. I think they defeat it. There's probably going to be like either a defector from the island or maybe one of these unluckies. Maybe they can relay some information now that I've kind of got them on my radar as well. They're going to need to stay there to log it after they've defeated everybody. It's going to be tension and maybe some superior officer to the ongoing or to the current leading person, Uruguay or wherever it might be. There's going to be some kind of reinforcement or something else is going to happen. Otherwise, I guess if I hadn't recollected the fact that they need to stay there for some more amount of time to log, I feel like they would have been out of there in like a chapter. So that's funny to me that this could go on for another volume of Whiskey Peak. Whereas I thought Loguetown would be like 2 more volumes and it ended instantly.
And one more thought on top of that, chapter 100, we find out Smoker and Buggy both independently intend on following Luffy to the Grand Line. So if they're stuck on Whiskey Peak, do you think we'll see either of them anytime soon? Are they going to catch up?
I think that would work well because we've basically taken the most present threat on the island and we really just need to inhabit it. This is like some capture the flag, king of the hill type stuff. We're king of the hill on Whiskey Peak. We got to hold our territory on Whiskey Peak until we get our log. So I wouldn't necessarily say a sitting duck, but more or less they are. So maybe they'll... I think it would be a good time for what is here, what they could do with this time frame. I think it would be good to see at least one of the two catch up with Buggy. I guess Buggy did have a map of the Grand Lines that was taken from him, so he had to at least. Well, he got that from his ship, I guess. So I don't know if he ever.
I don't even understand what map of the Grand Line means. Like the only way in is to go up the mountain, and like that's basically what the map of the Grand Line was go up this mountain. Because now he's just
log pose.
Yeah, like now the log post kind of dictates where we're allowed to go. So a map is useless, right? Like I think the map was literally just Reverse Mountain. Which Buggy has already been to the Grand Line. He says, like, oh, this is nostalgic or something like that. So he probably already knows how to get there.
All right. Well, that'll be my hope. I hope that we do see Buggy or Smoker coming up here and linking up with them at Whiskey Peak. Maybe even they get there, they're doing some combat, and maybe, oh my goodness, we got 2 bounties on the island. Send out the Baroque Works, send out ships, send out the armies where we need this money right here. Maybe. Or maybe Smoker, he's getting involved in some way for the good of the law. Maybe he's over there and he's like, oh, no, you can't take these guys for the bounty. We're taking these guys in. They're going to be executed. All right. But yeah, I think I could see us staying at Whiskey Peak, but there's definitely got to be somebody on the way, whether that's Baroque Works, Buggy, Smoker, everybody, while they hold down the fort, get that log posed. And I'm going to say at least half of Volume 13 is going to be at Whiskey Peak. I want to say that. I don't think it's going to be a one and done like Loguetown. I was wrong last time. I'm going to say 50% to 100% of Volume 13 will be Whiskey Peak oriented. And that's my final, very large reaching percentage-wise estimate.
Okay, folks. You heard it. We made it to the Grand Line. Once again, they said it could never be done. We would never make it this far. We proved them wrong. We'll be back next week with Volume 13, but if you want to hear it right now, become a member, because members get new episodes way early. Unless you're a member listening to this on the date we uploaded it, then you don't get it right now. Bye, everybody. I gotta go pee.
Oh, peace.